We are Team 42, and we have Timothy, Jaspreet, Yasin, Yang Changshu, Chanyapat, which is me. We will be talking about whether formal and informal institution has an influence on whether the business will be successful or failure in the base host country. With the increasing of cross-border business in nowadays, business need to know how the formal and informal institution of the host country to be successful in the host countries. Regulation, rules, norm, culture, and ethics play a significant role in the failure and successful of cross-border business. All of these vary among each country, which is why the business need to consider other matters before expanding its business to another country. In this report, we will be elaborate more on how formal and informal institution base are vital by using real-life business as an example. The following video will be regulation rules and norms, culture, and then ethics.
Regulations and rules. So why are the regulations and rules are necessary? So first of all, because it's about health and safety. It's about health and safety within the company, but also the consumers. And regulations and rules are also act as a guideline that helps company to apply to laws which protect them away from the lawsuit. It's also tools that create greater fairness and transparency of the market, which for company is easier to identify and adapt what affects their business the most. So here's an example of Marriott International violating one of the Chinese government well-known regulation called the Great Firewall. The Great Firewall is a mixture of technology and regulations which Chinese government uses to track down information and filter and block them if the information are harmful to the government. So once that Marriott International has listed Taiwan, Macau, Hong Kong, and Taipei as a country, which Chinese government thought they're trying to separate their territories. So they gave the punishment to the Marriott International to shut down their website and service. Their service and website are reopened until the CEO of the Marriott International have apologies to all the Chinese citizens and the Chinese government. And this is not the first time that Chinese government blocked their service. Now they also block the service such as Google or any other social networks from foreign country or foreign countries' cloud-based service. So what are the potential effects of international business? So for international business, we have our communicating tools such as Google emails or like Dropbox, we send over our works, which now on the Chinese government's regulations, we have to force and use other tools. And there's also a concern about intellectual property and privacy, which the Chinese government have to go through everything that you send over the internet. And there's also lack of transparency, which you would never know like what's kind of thing that could violate this kind of regulation because there's no well-written laws.
According to Peng and Meyer, formal institutions are legally defined written rules showing the coercive power of lawmakers. Now I'd like to talk about certain laws and regulations that need to be noticed in a country under a coordinated market economy and how such rules would impact the multinational operations. So basically, according to Peng and Meyer, the intervention of governments, the authority of labor unions, and the welfare of workforces would be more well protected in a CME dominant country. That means enterprises might need to be careful about the legitimacy of their operations correspondingly for their market competition. Now let's take Walmart as an example. Walmart is an American retailer doing business globally. it used to develop its supermarkets in Germany, but unfortunately, it failed to do so. The main reason for such termination is likely to be the lack of alignment between Walmart's operations and CME-oriented laws and regulations in Germany. To put it more specifically, Walmart attempted to carry on an anti-union strategy, which is kept using in America, by disobeying the wage limit that German labor unions set to its workers. Walmart also restricted some of its workers' legal behaviors, such as romantic relationships among employees. Those practices might threaten the legal rights of its workers based on the labor law in Germany, and also violate the cooperative system of labor relations with German unions. Consequently, Walmart had to change its operating patterns or face financial and managerial risks raised by those inconsistencies, such as receiving a regulatory fine and stimulating employees' dissatisfaction. In addition, the German government participated in markets through antitrust law and fair trade rules, which aimed to constrain retailers' price war. Such banning hindered Walmart's competitive strategy of providing a lower price than its competitors to seek more market shares and market power. Low prices were visible in America, whereas the Federal Cartel Office of Germany banned Walmart from implementing competitive strategy of dumping products and decreasing prices. Walmart was ordered to stop selling some of basic foods below costs. Such banning from the Federal Cartel Office of Germany could challenge Walmart to be in an unfavorable position in the rivalry of the German market. Thus, different institutional environments under the CME could impel a multinational to lose harmony with unions and laborers, and also lose competitiveness in the host market.
Norms play an essential role in determining the availability of cross-border business operations, since norms are the unwritten agreement of productive behavior that aims to put every individual on the same page. Norms as a common regulations and standard for organizations are essential to the international relationship because they generate a clear and more specific expectation for multinational entities to know their responsibilities, regulations, and rules. As localization has been one of the main goals for international business operation, following cultural norms has been the key to success. A common norm in China is that people dress and decorate everywhere with red elements during Chinese New Year as an unwritten ritual.
This ritual has taken roots in their lives, that they recognize red as representation of prosperity for the next coming years. Precisely, this is more than a festival, but a cultural norm that expects everyone to follow. As an international business, you do it, you respect their country.
Starbucks, one of the most successful international business, has done very well following the local norms. During Chinese New Year, Starbucks in China decorates their stores with red elements like red envelope, red bags, and even red merchandise, as red color representing blessing in Chinese culture. Despite red not being the brand color, Starbucks is willing to adapt its logo to local culture's values. The company has even continued to innovate its flavor to adapt local preference by releasing mooncake, red beans flavored drinks. The flexibility of adapting cultural norms is more than knowing their preference, but a respect for the norms of being open-minded to any differences. By doing so, Starbucks has opened its 6,000th store in China, earning approximately $3 billion in 2022. Norms often bring many aspects of host country, including culture, ethics, value. Those institutions open the door for companies that want to go worldwide. Therefore, acknowledging the local norm is not just following the rules, but more importantly, absorbing the cultural values and build a connection with the local customers.
in this section, we'll be talking about the culture. We'll be talking about the mistaken in translation, which is the language, and then we will go to the cultural dimension, which is long-term orientation or the short-term orientation. The first thing we're gonna go is the mistaken in translation. It is the example that we're gonna use is Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola decided that they want to expand its business to China. So when they first entered China, they used the word Coca-Cola, which actually means the wax tadpole. And when they realized that, they came back and then they're trying to do some research, which compared to the first time that they went to China, the technology was getting better. So they go back to China again and then they come up with the word 可口可乐, which means the tasty happiness or the happiness that you can taste. This translation is exactly what Coca-Cola want the customer there to perceive. However, there's a lot more of the business that actually fell in the translation because of some complicated when translate some language to another language. Another thing that we're going to talk about is the cultural dimension, which is long-term orientation. So we will be talking about the German company and the US company. We'll be talking about the Daimler, which is German company, and the Chrysler, which is Mercedes-Benz, or the US company. When they decided that they wanna merge the business together, they didn't realize about the difference in how they look the business like differently or the same. They just have the same problem and they want to solve the problem together. So they decided they want to merge. So after they merged, they realized that the perspective through the work is completely different. The one example that we can use here is long-term orientation. German company tends to have more perspective on long-term orientation, while the US company is quite short-term orientation. The US company tend to do trial, error, and then come to the solution, while the German company, they want to plan, implement them, and then solution. German company also have the perspective on time is the money, so they don't want to waste anything on the trial and then come to error, which is actually one of the reasons that the mergers fell after they have merged for like a couple years.
Ethics, a word which is highly used in today's context and have heard around everywhere. Ethics are principles, the standards, the norms of conduct used by businesses. Ethics are informal set of rules, such as norms, but they can relate to formal set of rules, such as law. Even though taken for granted, ethics play a very vital role in the reputation of a business, especially in today's day and age where everyone is very, very sure of how they want their products to be sourced or are they ethically made. Apple is one of the biggest examples of a company failing to uphold ethics. Apple used a Chinese manufacturer, Suyin Electronics, which quite heavily relied on child labor. Even though Apple headquarters knew this issue for a while, it took them 3 years to actually cut the electronic manufacturer off their supply chain entirely. See, this would have resulted in a sudden dip in profits if Apple could just cut them off right when they would. But they were able to avoid it in this cross-border operation because of the electronic manufacturer having very low ethics in businesses. To conclude, we understand that the environment of a host country is extremely vital to understand if a business would be a success or failure. The firm who is entering or operating in this market has to be very, very careful when they make this move. Every aspect, be it formal or informal, in the institution is highly important to determine the success or failure. Formal institutions such as regulations and rules, and informal institutions such as norms, cultures, and ethics are altogether very vital for this step. These institutions in cross-border businesses are absolute importance and should not be overlooked just for the sake of success.